On the debate tonight, while Netas waste precious time and sit on the women reservation bill, Naveen Patnaik and his party BJD decide to lead by example and not wait for a legislation.
I have announced 33% reservation for women in the Lok Sabha, forthcoming Lok Sabha election.
Now the chorus grows. New India demands political parties cutting across party lines to pave the way for greater women's representation for the upcoming elections. Political parties claim they too want higher participation of women.
हम लोग भी ये मानते हैं कि महिलाओं को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा भागीदारी देनी चाहिए और हमारी पार्टी देती रही है.
Rahul Gandhi's commitment. Earlier in our manifesto, we had decided. I think it is a need of the hour.
ये अच्छा कदम है. देश की संसद में अगर ऐसा तय हो जाए, क्योंकि संसद के कानून के बगैर चुनाव आयोग भी कुछ नहीं कर सकता. संसद में 33% आरक्षण की बात है, उसको लागू करना चाहिए.
But will political parties walk the talk? Recent state elections expose the hypocrisy of our parties. BJP and Congress fielded only 11% women in the Madhya Pradesh elections. Chhattisgarh elections saw a similar ratio with just 14% women candidates being fielded both by the BJP and the Congress. As India readies for the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, Mirror now asks, will political parties ensure this time there is greater women candidate participation? Let's debate.
Good evening. Well, let's say this is a good beginning, but we have a long, long way to go. The record of all parties is pathetic when it comes to women representation in politics. And I don't understand how else will policies be designed and made which are balanced in their nature when you do not have the view of the other half of this country. India ranks 20th from the bottom in terms of representation of women in parliament, globally speaking. As of 2017, 11.8%, just 11.8% of the 542 MPs in Lok Sabha and just 11% of the MPs in Rajya Sabha were women MPs. The numbers on your screens will also show what has been the response of various political parties or their efforts in giving tickets to women candidates. So for all the comments that you just heard of, oh, we are in favor of women reservation bill, we want more representation of women in our parliament, in our assemblies, the numbers tell you a very different story and the numbers tell you the real story. Everything else is just a false assurance, is just a big fat lie. Because election after election, state after state and at the center, parties have refused to give more than 15%, at max 15% of their seats, of their tickets to women representatives. That is the truth. So one more time, as we have here often on Mirror Now, let's ask our political parties, when will this change? In 2019 general Lok Sabha elections, will they walk the talk? Sasmit Patra, spokesperson for BJT, with us this evening. Pallavi Sharma, spokesperson for the Congress Party. Vanna Singh, representing the Samajwadi Party. Major General Anil Verma, he's the head for the Association for Democratic Reforms. They've done extensive research on this as well. With us this evening. And Nida Hassan, country director for change.org in India. Vaibhav Agarwal, leader of the BJP. And let me begin with Sasmit Patra, because you have really taken the lead here in assembly, in your own party, Sasmit Patra. Do you think this is what will help bring about a change for your electorate?
You see, Tanvi, this is a start. We still have a long way to go, but the way Honorable Chief Minister Shri Naveen Patnaik ji has committed, promised, that 33% reservation for women candidates for the Lok Sabha polls will be there. So out of 21 seats that we have in Odisha, you can rest assured that at least 7 women candidates would be contesting this election from Odisha, from the Biju Janata Dal. As regards taking it forward, I just want to give you a historical perspective why we have made this pitch. If you see in terms of women's empowerment and women's leadership, late Shri Biju Patnaik ji the former Chief Minister of Odisha, one of the tallest leaders of the state and the country, he actually introduced 33% reservation for women in the Panchayati Raj system, which was following by Mr. Naveen Patnaik, and he increased it to 50%. And there are very few states, in fact, in India, which have a 50% reservation for Panchayati Raj. Similarly, taking it forward in his pursuit and commitment towards women's empowerment and leadership, Mr. Naveen Patnaik ji has now promised 33% reservation. This is a start. And what we have also done from the Biju Janata Dal is we have sent out delegations to 22 regional and national parties of the country. And unfortunately, those parties which were waxing eloquent today about saying that, women's empowerment should be there, we'll provide you more seats. They praised Mr. Naveen Patnaik, but they did not as much talk anything in terms of actually doing it this election. So there's a lot more there's a slip between the cup and the lip, as we say, but here it's not in a slip, it's actually a huge gap, and we hope that the other political parties will also take that step forward of at least a 33% reservation for women for the Lok Sabha to start with, and then build it to the legislative assembly.
So I'm just quoting here from one of the spokesperson of the BJP, and he, in fact, in response to a question about this, said that this is just a lip service that Naveen Patnaik is doing. It is to distract from the increased atrocities against women, and it's hypocritical and rhetorical. Mr. Patnaik had the numbers to pass such a reservation for the Odisha Assembly, then why didn't he do so? What is your response to when BJP says this?
You see, Mr. Sambit Patra, Dr. Sambit Patra of the BJP usually has a habit of making laughable statements. A simple laughable statement is that the state legislature has the power to take a decision and bring about a reservation for women representation in the assembly. He's probably not read the constitution, or probably he's not aware about the Indian constitution. The BJP should read it, because if you have to bring about a certain amount of reservation on either the legislature or the parliament, it requires a parliament intervention, it requires a parliament passage. It cannot be done by a state. If that was so, then every state would determine the representation on its own. So the BJP, because it promised in its manifesto in 2014 that if they came to power, they would provide this reservation, and then went back on its word, just like the other jumlas that they have played with this country. Naturally so, they are trying to hide face. And that shows the anti-women attitude of the BJP and its spokespersons.
So, while I would appreciate and I would request you to not make any, personal remarks about anybody who's not on this panel, and Sambit Patra is not on this panel, so he won't be able to respond to you. But on the larger point, let me get in Vaibhav Agarwal and ask him this question. For the BJP, Mr. Vaibhav Agarwal, can Amit Shah make a similar commitment that due representation will be given to women this election season?
First thing, Shashmat needs to go back to the school before he wants to jump into politics. Why? Because, and school of politics, I mean. And there is no personal attack in this. And I'm being very straightforward and honest, because what he's talking about is quoting Bharatiya Janata Party's spokesperson, Sambit Patra's statement. Now, you have to understand the context in which he made a statement. If Biju Janata Dal does not have any concrete issues to fight against the centre government and the might of the Bharatiya Juggernaut Party, or the Bharatiya Janata Party as we are better known as, then they will obviously pull something or the other out of their hat and try to make it the escape rabbit, as I would humbly put it. However, the people today are very well connected when it comes to understanding of their ways of their political issues in their own region. And we are having two elections in Odisha. One is the state elections and the other one is the central elections. So you have to understand that the people, and both the elections will be influenced. When we look at the understanding of the people, both the elections will be influenced and fought under one banner. Whereas the central BJP and every central BJP or the NDA government, which is led by the Bharatiya Janata Party, has a policy which they've implemented elsewhere and in the center, all the policies are going concurrent with each other. All the policies are simultaneous and hand in hand with each other. They are not in isolation of each other. And ultimately, the development of the state will happen with the central vision, with the larger vision. So you have to understand that there is no point in singing poll dramas. Now you understand why right now the statement was made. Of course, then allegation will be put on the ruling state party of Biju Janata Dal that at the poll time they are coming up with something like this while they had the numbers in their constituent assembly to pass such a bill and send it to the, and ratify such a bill and send it to the center.
Okay, so now that you
Why didn't they do it?
Okay, now
but
this
is
not about...
We brought in the bill, Congress stalled it.
You brought in the bill and Congress stalled it. Wow. So why didn't you give enough representation to women in Telangana, which went to election just a few months ago, where the total number of women candidates for your party were 11.86% of the 118 candidates you put up? Why didn't you give more women representation in Madhya Pradesh that just went to polls, where only 10% of your candidates were actually women candidates? And I can go on and trace it all the way back to Lok Sabha 2014 and all the state elections in between.
Sure.
So when you say you are concurrent in your policy, do you mean concurrent at the center and state to not give women the platform?
Not at all. In fact, it's the other way around. We are concurrent in extending an arm to the women both at the center as well as the state.
I just read out the data.
Now, why I would say that, and I would back that up with something very simple. One minute. We will definitely look at the data. Politics is not run by data. Politics is run by people, and the list of constituents that we get, and the number of representatives that are willing to fight from a particular jurisdiction. Now you understand that when we look at our larger commitment on a macro level, instead of micromanaging the entire issue, we need to understand that the External Affairs Minister today is a woman. Sure. The Defense Minister today is a woman. The Textile Minister today is a woman. The number of MPs that are there in Rajya Sabha that the BJP have are more than any other party in terms of representation. The number of Lok Sabha MPs that are women,
if it's still an abysmal 11%, do you think it's something to be proud of?
MLCs and MLAs in terms of totality are number of...
Andho mein Kana Raja is not a matter of pride. Vaibhav Agarwal, your benchmark cannot be a 10% that the other political parties have set up. You're not walking the talk. I just read out the data, what you're doing.
But you're walking the talk.
You're not giving the representation, and then you're turning around and giving the excuse that you don't have
Why don't you read out the other parties' data also, Tanvi? Instead of running the
when I ask you the question, your excuse is that there aren't women willing to come and participate. So let me go across to our other panelists. Of course I will, but why will I read out the data for Congress party or Samajwadi party when I'm questioning you? I will do that when I question them. So don't tell me what I have to do and how I have to anchor.
Why wouldn't you?
Just answer my question. Now, let me go across to General Anil Verma.
General Anil Verma, comparison on an equal footing.
The response that is given to us is that, well, there aren't enough candidates, there aren't enough women willing, there aren't enough, candidates deserving to be included. What does your research show? Because I was looking at some numbers, and from the small percentage of women who do get the ticket and do fight election, a larger percentage actually end up winning elections and delivery. Is there something that you can share with us in terms of your own analysis?
Yeah, Tanvi, I'll quickly go over the issues which you have raised. But before that, I would like to stress the fact that political parties do pay only lip service to the gender equality, right to equality, and the various measures for the benefit of women which are specified in our constitution and even in the directive principles and the fundamental rights, it has been said. Okay, now so quickly coming to the issues now, you had given certain statistics in the beginning, but overall I want to tell you that 24% of parliamentary seats in the world are held by women. And this has increased over the last couple of years. And though in India 49% of the electorate is women, But you have already mentioned just about 11% representation is there in our legislature. Even countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia have higher women representation compared to India. They have 27% and 20% respectively. And 1/3 of all democratic countries in the world have legislated quotas for women. So that is something to think about. Between 1957 and 2015, the women contestants have increased 15 times as far as India goes. So, whereas compared to that, the men's participation or candidates have increased only 5 times. The number is, of course, varying. The success rate in 1971, women was 34%, men was 18%. And in the last Lok Sabha 2014, women's success rate was 9.3% and men was 6.4%. That is winners versus the total contestants. Now, the percentage of candidates has very marginally increased over this thing. The data shows that. And if I were to tell you party-wise thing which you were mentioning, very briefly, as far as the MPs go in the 16th Lok Sabha, of course, by virtue of the large number of winners which BJP has, they have more. There is no doubt about that. But if we were to look at the MLAs, it's a bit of a different story. At the top with 14% is Trinamool and CPI. Number 2 is BSP. Number 3 is BJP and CPM with 10% each. Now, the point which I want to highlight here is that what is surprising is that we have certain powerful female politicians.
Yes.
They have been chief ministers. But surprisingly, even in their political parties, you know, be it Mayawati or Jayalalitha, the late Jayalalitha, or Mamata Banerjee, they have not given the due importance which they should have in increasing the giving the candidature to women. Now, the main problem, the analysis which we have carried out, 70% of the women MPs in the current parliament have got a dynastic background.
Absolutely.
So that is one main reason why the other women are not given an opportunity. The second thing I want to highlight is the lip service they pay. We carried out an analysis of the office bearers of various political parties. In case of national parties, I'll just tell you quickly. In case of Trinamool, it is 33%. In the case of Aam Aadmi Party, is 23%. Whereas in case of BJP, it is only 12%. And in Congress, it is 16%. So the issue is universal.
Yes.
We are very happy that at least the BJP has taken a step towards the direction, and now they are pinpricking as to why didn't they pass a bill or legislation and all that. But at least it's a step forward.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are strongly in favor of women's reservation.
So, General Verma, let me take up some of the points.
It must be there. And the reasons which are...
Let me take up some of the points that you've raised and the interesting statistics that you've brought out for us, and take that to Pallavi Sharma of the Congress Party. One, of course, is the fact that what the data still suggests is a large number of women who have still made it to the parliament have done it because of their dynastic background. 2 is it's not just about those who are getting tickets, even your office bearers, the percentage of women there at that level is abysmal. 3, Pallavi Sharma, if we look at some of the statistics, Congress record is pathetic. In Karnataka 2018 state elections, only 6.3% candidates were women candidates. In Gujarat, only 6.21% were women candidates. Then why is Rahul Gandhi making so much of halla over the women reservation bill? Why doesn't he just walk the talk and start with his own party?
Tanvi, the truth of the matter is, no doubt, I think women across political lines will show bipartisanship, and it will be a great moment. I think it will be a historical moment when the women reservation bill is passed. Having said that, you talked about walking the talk. I think actions speak louder than words. And in 2012, when the UPA government was in power, the bill did get cleared in the Rajya Sabha. In 2010, the bill was cleared in the Rajya Sabha. Unfortunately, we did not enjoy such a brute majority as the NDA does today in the Lok Sabha, and we could not get it passed in the Lok Sabha. Now, the truth is, Tanvi, that it did take a long struggle to draft the women reservation bill and get it passed in the Rajya Sabha. But there was one good point, and that was that the bill was already drafted and prepared. It had bypassed it had gone through, in fact, 2 standing committees. It had been scrutinized properly. All the NDA had to do was just table it and get it cleared. The Congress party, along with all the other opposition parties, had pledged their support publicly to the women
Pallavi,
reservation
all
bill.
of that is about the legislation.
Sonia Gandhi ji
Pallavi,
also,
all of that is about
Sushmita ji also,
legislation
all
and a
wrote letters to the
bill.
government
And we will be very glad when all of you unite to actually pass the bill. Right now, you are uniting to give us the same excuses. I am asking you, with or without the women reservation bill, why don't you do what the BJD is doing?
Yes, I'll respond to that, Tanvi. Like I said, we pledged our support to the women reservation bill. We wanted the government to clear the women reservation bill, but the unfortunate part of the matter is that it did not get even tabled for discussion in the last 5 years. Now that it did not get tabled, my party president wrote to all the state chief ministers that the Congress party enjoys power in, and we asked them to implement it at the state legislature level. So now it's getting, now it's at the state legislature level.
Your party president,
let me assure you on behalf of my party,
so what is it that your party
much more
president,
better reservation this time when the tickets for the Lok Sabha are distributed.
What is it that your party president did not realize last May when Karnataka went to elections, or even in December when Madhya Pradesh went to elections, and has suddenly realized now?
I think, Tanvi, if you look at the data for the Madhya Pradesh Assembly elections, I have it with me. I'll just present it to you. The data is much better. A lot of women did get ticket for the state legislature in Madhya Pradesh. But having said that, Tanvi, yes, we realize that women need to be given reservation. The Congress party has been very vocal about it. We've pledged our support to the government. And like I said, Tanvi, we've written to the state legislatures also where we enjoy power. We'll assure that the women reservation bill is tabled in the first parliamentary session once we come to power, and now also when we distribute ticket for the Lok Sabha, we'll ensure that there's better women reservation and representation that comes across on behalf of the Congress party.
Okay, let me take that forward to Vandana Singh of the Samajwadi Party. And of course, the Congress can say that the numbers have improved, that in Madhya Pradesh, the 11.3% of the tickets went to women candidates versus obviously a 6.3% in Karnataka. But obviously, when your benchmark is so low, everything looks like a great effort. Vandana Singh, it's the same question. Everybody is giving us lip service. So who's walking the talk? If you have a young leader like Akhilesh Yadav leading the party, is he going to go beyond his family to give tickets to women, other women who may deserve it?
Well, if you look at the present Lok Sabha situation, we are fighting in coalition with BSP, Tanvi, and we are having 37 seats. I think he is looking at the winnability at the moment, so I can't comment much on that. Having said that, in my opinion, reservation to women is a sham because men rule it by proxy. There are hardly any genuine and independent women candidates, as we had Sarpanch Pati in Madhya Pradesh, if you remember, and it gives rise to extra constitutional power centers. And BJP should have initiated a talk in parliament because they had the majority. Why didn't they do that? And it's not the issue of one political party, it's a larger issue.
It is, which is why we are asking all political parties that
involves
question.
all other political parties, and it also includes their attitude towards women empowerment.
It does, but I am asking you as representative of Samajwadi Party, if your answer right now to me, Ms. Vandana Singh, if your answer to me right now is you can't really tell us about what Akhilesh will do or will not do.
I can't hear you, Tanvi.
If you are telling us that winnability is what matters and that is the reason that Akhilesh may or may not give tickets to women candidates, and I think it's really appalling because what you seem to suggest is that the only winnable candidates out there in our country and in Uttar Pradesh between the Samajwadi Party and the BSP are men. Now, I want you to think about it.
Story of all the political parties, if you look at it.
But I'm asking you for your political party. Let the others answer for their own party. Would you like to respond for your own political party? Vandana Singh, I don't want your explanation for what the BJP or the Congress or the BJD are doing. They can do it themselves.
Look, Tanvi, as I said, look, I think the system is pretty much the same in all the political parties. So is in SP. How many tickets go to women, we are yet to see. So I can't comment on that really, but having said that, all of them, they talk about women empowerment, and actually speaking, all of us women across the party line, we really have to fight for it.
How do you get empowered when you are not given any important posts to carry out duties?
It's
when
just
your
the
voice
tokenism.
doesn't count in making policies and strategies?
Even Mr. Naveen
how
Patnaik,
are you getting empowered?
I'd like to know how many seats he is going to give, which is the winning seats to women.
He's giving 7 seats. He's announced it already. Okay, I'm going to go across to Nida Hassan, and we'll fix the audio line with Vandana Singh. And I see Sasmit Patra's hand go up, but first to Nida Hassan, just let me go to her because she hasn't made her remarks yet. Nida, this is, I mean, maybe we should just give some points to Vandana Singh for being honest enough to say, I really can't say that our party is going to, how many seats will they give to women, because it's about winnability. And unfortunately, that's the excuse that parties often give us. You will not give us the opportunity and then you will blame us saying that you can't win. Nida Hassan.
Tanvi, I think, women's representation in the parliament is a right that has been denied to the women in this country for the past 70 years. As you said, the numbers just don't add up. 260 million voters were women in the last Lok Sabha elections. That number is only going to rise in this election. And only having 11% of member of parliaments as women is just a number that I think as a country we need to really look at and really ask ourselves, are we really being an inclusive democracy? When it comes to women empowerment, are we really leveling the playing field? Are we really giving women the representation that they truly deserve? There is a thing about, public demand and whether people really want this to happen. Over the years, we've seen on Change.org itself, so many petitions which have been signed by thousands and if not lakhs of people asking for 33% of reservations in the parliament. There is an ongoing campaign which is asking for all political parties to field 50% of their candidates, women candidates. So there is a public demand. What is lacking is political will. If we want to talk about women empowerment in its truest sense, then we really need to give the decision-making power to women. Because, from what we've seen, even the survey that we did called She Votes, where we asked about 20,000 of our users whether they see gender issues playing an important role in the upcoming elections, it was very encouraging to see that 55% of the respondents said that they will choose a woman candidate over a male candidate, right? So there is public demand. We really need to ask, the political parties really need to ask themselves, are they really hearing what the public really wants? We've seen in other countries, in Germany, for example, in the 1980s, the Green Party took a bold step and said that 50% of all its candidates, whether it is the local or the central, national elections, they will field women. And what happened was other political parties were then shamed into also having more representation of women. And in the 30 years, the percentage of women in German parliament went from 6% to 30%. So whether the reservation bill is passed or not, the political parties can make a strong statement by fielding more women as candidates.
Okay, so let me go back to Mr. Sasmit Patra. He wanted to come in and make a point. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so there are 2 or 3 issues I want to just lay before you, Tanvi. Firstly, when we're talking about, and my good friend from the BJP said I should understand it from the school of politics. Unfortunately, the BJP and its spokesperson, Dr. Sambit Patra, because he's already made a statement without even understanding the provisions of the Act and the Parliament, has already made, what you should say, I can't use a certain word because there's a model code of conduct, but actually the thing is that the BJP has shot itself in its leg. You know why? because they were supposed to give that 33% and they forgot to give that 33% like another jumla. Now, coming back to the fact, why in Odisha you see this kind of a transformation and why not across the country? Let me give you 2 or 3 basic facts which I told you. Firstly, Shri Biju Patnaik ji brought in 33% of reservation for women in the Panchayati Raj system when people hadn't even thought about it. Secondly, it was Mr. Naveen Patnaik who further progressed it to 50%. Till today, there are only 19 states in the country which have that, but there are large states like Uttar Pradesh with the BJP rules which doesn't have a 50% reservation in Panchayati Raj. There are states like Punjab where Congress rules, but there is not 50% reservation in the Panchayati Raj. Now you come to the 33% reservation in Parliament and state assemblies. As I said, there is a thought process behind what the Biju Janata Dal and Mr. Naveen Patnaik does. There is a consistent flow towards women's empowerment. How you do that? By providing them opportunity. If you don't give them opportunity and you ask them that can you do it, I think it's being very, very sad. Let me give you another small example. There is a women's empowerment program that we have in Odisha called as Mission Shakti. Would be happy to know, Tanvi, and I welcome you to Odisha sometime, whenever you can. Come and meet these women. There are 70 lakh women under Mission Shakti, under the self-help groups of 7 lakhs, who are actually doing wonders. Yeah. And that is the wonder that has transformed Odisha. And you'll be happy to know that Odisha is the state which is the highest percentage of women having assets, of physical assets in terms of either a house or either some kind of a capital asset. That's 65% highest. So there is a thought behind the process. The thought is not only elections, the thought is progressive empowerment for women. And today, unfortunately, the Bharatiya Janata Party has the gall to actually say that this is just a political gaffe. It's actually the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Well, there is no denying the fact that when you have equal representation of both genders, of all genders, then you will have a policy which is balanced. And BJP of all parties should know it, because it was under Vasundhara Raje that many women-oriented policies were actually announced and implemented in Rajasthan. And the idea was to give the money, give the power in the hands of the woman who is running the household to empower her. So women empowerment really doesn't happen by saying so. It happens when you come out with policies which perhaps are easier to design when you have a woman perspective when you are designing that policy, when you are implementing that policy. That's largely the only point. And there are so many examples that will tell you that if a room full of men have to sit and decide how a woman public toilet needs to be designed and implemented and how it should function and what could be the problems, you're never going to get it right, because somebody needs to tell you how it has to be done firstly. But go ahead. Pallavi Sharma had a point to make. Pallavi, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Tanvi, let me second what you said. I think it's an incredible point you made. The Congress party does understand, that to empower women truly, they need to be brought in the field of decision making. They need to be decision makers, so that just to ensure social welfare of women also, you need to give them representation in the parliament. And that is why we have been very vocal about it in the last 5 years, only considering the fact that there was a government in the Lok Sabha that enjoyed a brute majority and could have passed the bill very easily.
But they are blaming you, Pallavi, for blocking it.
But the truth of the matter is, the NDA government built a brick wall around the women reservation bill. Sorry, Tanvi, I didn't get you.
The BJP and Vaibhav Agarwal sitting here is blaming the Congress party for blocking the bill in the parliament.
Vaibhav Agarwal actually suggested one of the gentlemen in the panel to attend a political school. I only hope for the welfare of the gentleman if Vaibhav Agarwal does not suggest him the same political school that he went to, because the BJP was the government in power. They enjoyed a brute majority in the Lok Sabha. The UPA government got the bill passed in the Rajya Sabha in 2010. It was under the NDA government that the bill lapsed. It was a well-drafted bill where women, various stakeholders were consulted, women activists were consulted, and a bill was drafted. All of that has gone into vain because this government did not even bother to table the bill in these 5 years, even for discussion once. That's the miserable plight. The BJP built a brick wall around the women reservation bill.
Even talking
and unfortunately,
do you
all
even
the
hear
Congress party
yourself what
could
you're
do was
talking
we
about,
wrote to our
Pallavi?
state legislatures
Do you
to
even know the
ensure
history
that
of the women
at least
reservation
at
bill?
the state legislative assembly, the women get adequate reservation.
Yes, Vaibhav Agarwal.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. if you outshout me or I cannot hear you.
Pallavi, no, I was not
Yes,
out
please
shouting
repeat,
you.
Mr.
You know,
Agarwal,
thanks
I
for
can
the
hear you.
guidance in terms of going to school. Learning is a process which is continuous and it does not stop. So I would like to go to school. Please suggest me one. I'll be happy. And Shashmit can also suggest me one. I'll be happy to go
let's get
there.
back to the conversation here,
But let me
Vaibhav.
tell
Yes.
you, you know, I don't want to get into the politics of the women's reservation bill, because you have to understand that, you know, you just
Then why don't you just answer a simple question that in these 5 years, why didn't you even table the women reservation bill for discussion?
I will answer all your questions, but have the patience
if you do
to
not
listen
want
to
to get into the
Pallavi, let him finish his point, please.
Simple question.
Pallavi, let him finish his point, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're belittling Tanvi's debate. Don't do that.
Yes, Tanvi, please.
So, okay, Pallavi ji, please understand, Congress has a history of playing double politics, and if you're representing your party, you need to do your homework right. The women reservation bill was first tabled and designed by his Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Vajpayee ji at that time in 1998, which the Congress stalled because we failed miserably to get it through because we did not have the numbers, and you refused to support. And again, so on and so forth.
So what happened in these 5 years?
You didn't do anything about it. You want an account for the last 5 years for us. Last 5 years, every time we go to the parliament, before the parliament session, there's a joint session of all the parties that are called and requested for certain bill supports. Congress, we had a discussion about women reservation bill in the parliament. There was a lot of ho-halla on a lot of media. And Tanvi, I was on the debate either with you or with Faye on your channel.
That's
where I remember
incorrect.
the Congress was brutally crucified for not supporting the women's bill. I mean, come on. At least have the audacity.
I don't want to go into a back and forth between the Congress party and the BJP. Suffice to say, if either of them... Okay, 1 minute please. Pallavi and Vaibhav, take a deep breath please. Let's not get into a BJP versus Congress. Suffice to say, it is for the entire country to see right now that if either of your parties and your party presidents actually had the commitment to take this bill through, you would have done it. Whether you were in government or you were in opposition, it wouldn't have changed your stand. You would have enabled a discussion and passing of this bill. Let's just say the fact that a women reservation bill is not a reality in 2019 just goes on to show that no political party has a genuine will to do it. Here is the second aspect that proves that you do not have a genuine will to do it, because look at the representation with or without the bill. Just give those tickets, just give those office posts, just give the opposition the opportunity. Now, while BJP may have 9 senior women ministers in its government today, why won't it actually percolate it down to the assembly level? I do not understand. I have not finished talking yet, Vaibhav Agarwal. Can I please finish my point here? I do not want to go on and on about the women reservation bill. It doesn't matter. The 13th Lok Sabha is over. We need to now elect a new Lok Sabha. The point of conversation tonight is how many women candidates will you give tickets to? What can you tell us about that? We are in the run-up to the next election. Tell me, 1 month later we go to vote. What happens? Yes, Vaibhav Agarwal, you can start.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. See, 1 minute and first 20 seconds, I'll just quickly give you 2 numbers, and I don't want to belabor the topic. What you're saying is not wrong in totality, in toto, but it has some miscalculations and misrepresentations, which I would like to clarify my stand on. Very simply put, and you have an opinion which you will, of course, you have the right to voice it. There are no 2 doubts about it. So you understand the 16th Lok Sabha, it is the highest number of women MPs from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Point number 1. Fighter pilots, inclusions in the Air Force. Point number 2.
As a percentage?
6 out of 14 elected mayors in the BJP-led...
And it's all thanks to you.
One minute. I'm coming to that. 1 minute I asked you. I asked for. 6 out of 14 elected mayors in BJP are women. You understand? Then there is financial inclusion by Mudra and Jan Dhan Yojana. And then there is the independent toilets for the girls. Then there is 6 cabinet ministers of women. 70 years no other government had it. The women reservation bill is just a part of the entire exercise on a macro level. We are dealing with a change of mindset here. We
it's
don't
not
have
about
a magic
how
wand
many
that we can
number
do it
of
in one night.
MPs. By the sheer majority that you have, obviously you may have large number of MPs, but is it the percentage you were telling
It's
me?
increasing.
I don't know. You can give me the data on the percentage wise. Secondly, Vaibhav Agarwal, to the point that you made about the toilets for women, that's exactly what I was saying. Please go and speak to the women, to the organizations who've been working with the government, and they will tell you that on ground, the first thing that they realized was when a room full of men sit and discuss policy and implement the policy, they're going to get it wrong. And they got it wrong again and again for the first 1.5 years because they did not ask a woman, what is it that you need in a toilet? And how is it functionally to be designed? That's the basic point. You can design and announce all the policies that you want, but if you do not have in a boardroom a woman representative, then you're not going to be able to come out with effective policies for women employees in your organization. It's as simple as that. Now, if the IT industry and the media industry and the telecom industry and the aviation industry and the services industry can get it, I don't know why policymakers don't get it. Nida Hassan wanted to come in between and make a point. Go ahead, please, Nida.
Just to add to what you said, Tanvi, I think women in this country are tired of men in suits and men in khadi kurta pajamas deciding the policies for women, you know. There has been so much demand by the women themselves to be part of the policy making process. I'm just going to give you my example, you know. I'm a working mother. I have a 3-year-old son. And the reason I'm heading this organization right now is because the policies in my workplace were set by my predecessor, who was also a woman. And majority of these women leave the workforce because the women-friendly policies which are adopted by institutions never take into account what women really have to say. So unless we hear what women need, we make them the decision makers, we let them decide what exactly do they want, what kind of policies work for them, we will never have an inclusive democracy. All of this women empowerment is just, you know, tokenism. And from what I'm hearing from every political party on this panel itself, seems like nobody has a problem of getting women reservation in parliament, but still it hasn't happened. So I think the BJD, by taking a step, has set a very, very strong example. And the people of this country are watching, and we're hoping that other political parties will follow suit.
Yes. Now, before I go across to General Verma, I quickly want to also ask Pallavi Sharma, because she said they are working towards it. Pallavi, BJD has set itself a target of 1/3 representation by women candidates. Can you give us a sense of what is the Congress target this time? Will you at least touch 20%?
Tanvi, we assure you, when my party president wrote a letter to the Prime Minister asking for the bill to be passed in the Lok Sabha, he said, let's rise above politics and ensure this for the women of this country. Let's ensure representation for the women of this country for their own welfare. So I assure you on behalf of my party, Tanvi, the Congress party is going to make sure that women get adequate representation that they well deserve.
I'm running out of time, so I'm going to cut you in here, but I get the point that you're making.
That they deserve.
Very quickly, I want to go across to General Anil Verma.
Can I just say,
ask him this, General Verma, based on your own experience, in your own analysis, why is it that the women reservation bill has actually never made it through the parliament? Is only one party responsible for that?
No, even now the statement which was given by the Congress president, he said, yes, we are for the women reservation bill. However, that, you know, elusive consensus again amongst all the political parties will never be arrived at. But the issues, 2-3 things I quickly want to bring out. One is the BJP rep is talking about the total number of women MPs and the ministers and all. That's very fine. But in terms of percentage, I had mentioned earlier, they are third, because they are only 11%. Trinamool is 32%. The second point I want to bring out is that unless they themselves empower the women, give more chances for women to come in, train them, And there are certain legislative and non-legislative methods. Some of the non-legislative thing which I can recommend is that, like, the deposit which they have to, when you contest election, that can be reduced. Some hand-holding can be done. The parties can provide some money to the women to contest. They can be trained in certain matters. And they should follow their own political party constitutions, wherein it is laid down in some of them 25% office bearers will be women. None of the political parties is following their own constitution. So, so these are some of the recommendations, like the forfeiture of the deposit money and all, it is 1/6 of, if you don't get more than 1/6, that can be increased. They can be given free time on the media to speak about their, when they're campaigning and all. And let me tell you that the major thing is public funding.
Yes.
In across the globe, there are 70 countries which provide public funding for women. So why are we having 70% women from the dynasties? Is because they are well off. They are from, they are born with the silver spoon in their mouth, and they become politicians by virtue of that.
Absolutely.
So it is the 30% we have to look at. And they have to be given help.
And if the
they have
rest
to be
of the
empowered.
world can do it,
only then things will change. And this consensus has to be good.
Absolutely, General. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you there. I'm completely out of time. And I'm going to thank my panelists at this point of time. But a good beginning has been made here. So I want to end this show and on a more optimistic note. Perhaps the political parties, the national parties who are making all right kinds of noises right now, saying, yes, we want this, it should happen, women should get more, women empowerment and all of that. Maybe they should do it and walk the talk there. Caste card and money power should not be the winnability criteria when you decide who should get the nomination or who should get the ticket. Capability, that is what decides winnability. And that is what the parties have to come to. It's only a mindset change. That's the biggest challenge right now. And if we start understanding that at the end of the day, a balanced representation will give you a balanced policy and a balanced governance, you get the winnability right then and there. It's that simple. Thank you so much for joining us on this debate.